welcome back to Brianna's Bookshelf. So today we are doing 10 before the end, and this video is basically 10 books that I want to read before the end of 2025. Now I've seen a lot of other creators doing this recently, and I like this idea as like a refocusing of like what I want my TBR to be for the end of the year. It also feels slightly unrealistic possibly because of course I got so excited and put so many books on this list that I'm super duper excited about, which a lot of them are like longer or books that I'm probably going to spend more time on. So I don't know that I'll be able to get to all of these, but these are like the 10 that I'm going to be prioritizing on my TBR. So without further ado, let's get into the 10 books I want to read before the end of the year. First is of course We Love You Bunny by Mona Awad. And this is kind of a prequel slash sequel, I hear, of Bunny. And Bunny is one of my favorite books of all time. So of course I have been absolutely thrilled to read this. I cannot wait. I honestly am surprised I haven't picked it up sooner, but I have been reading some other stuff for a vlog, but I cannot wait to get into this one as soon as I'm finished with that. If this is anything like Bunny, I'm guessing that this is going to be kind of horror, but very literary, very girly in a way, but like weird girly, and probably have lots of different themes and kind of hidden meanings to the work and be a little bit ambiguous. And I love all those things and I cannot wait to dive back into this world. Another one that I just cannot wait to pick up, I mean that's obviously a theme with all the books on this list, but this is another one of like the top of the list, is Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. Now, of course, I love R.F. Kuang. I have read most of her books at this point. I still need to read Yellowface, but this one I'm extra excited about because I believe that it is somewhat inspired by Dante's Inferno. And if you don't know what that's about, it's basically about a travel into hell and through the 9 circles of hell. And I've heard that there's also like a romance subplot in this that is between academic rivals, and that in this world, hell is a university setting, which sounds iconic. And although I did read The Inferno and I wasn't the biggest fan, I do love the concept of it, and I have realized that I absolutely love media that's inspired by it. So like Ninth House is another one that I feel like kind of has some inspiration behind it. And yeah, anything where people are like traveling to hell for some sort of quest, I just eat it up, and I think it's so interesting. And I know R.F. Kuang has just such amazing writing where she really makes you care about the characters, and she's also just so writes like academia settings so well. And so I think that there's like literally not a better writer who could have done a book on this topic, and I absolutely cannot wait to get to this one. I definitely think that this is going to be a 5-star prediction for sure. Next up we have City of Souls and Sinners by Kayla Edwards. This is book 2 in the House of Devils series, and I read the first book earlier this year and I really loved it. It was like an incredible start to a fantasy romance series in my opinion, and so I've just been itching to continue the series, and I'm super excited about this one. I honestly have no idea where the story is going to go, but this is just such a fantastic world where we have a urban fantasy setting. There are so many different types of creatures and magical beings. We have dark slayers, which are like these magical bounty hunters, and they have powers to track people. We also have, you know, the usual fae. There's also vampires. There are, I believe, werewolves as well in this series. So there are just a ton of different magical beings all living in this urban metropolis together. The plot is so dramatic, and I absolutely love the main characters, Loren and Darian. They are already, just from reading the first book, they are one of my favorite fantasy couples. So I really cannot wait to continue this. Then another fantasy, but obviously with a quite different vibe, is The Hobbit by Tolkien. And this, I'm pretty sure I put on my 25 books for 2025 list. And I feel like I've done pretty well on that list so far. But this one I have not really even thought about picking up, to be honest, and I need to refocus on this. I'm sure most people know what this is about. I've actually already read the main Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I loved it. That was a few years ago, so I should really do a reread of that as well, but I've never read The Hobbit, and I hadn't even seen the movie until really recently, so I really just need to delve more into this so I can get a better idea of this story. But from what I know, this is much more of a quest, whereas the Lord of the Rings is very, I mean, it is a quest, a journey, but it's very much about war and almost like the fight of good versus evil and like who will conquer and kind of like the end of the world almost type of scenario. And I believe that this is a lot more like adventure based and possibly a little bit more chill. So I'm really interested to see kind of what the vibe is, and I think it's one that I will probably love. Now this one might be a little ambitious of me to put this on this list, but I would love to read Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, because this is the last book in the Throne of Glass series, and I started that series, well, maybe I actually started that series last year, late last year, I don't remember at this point. But I would love to finish it up this year and just, you know, be done with it going into the new year. That sounds like I want to like be through with it. And that's not the case. I do enjoy this series. I will say I haven't loved it as much as I have loved Sarah J. Maas's other series, which is really interesting. I feel like this series has a lot of like diehard fans, and people seem to be really into this series. I especially have heard so many good things about this last book. And I've heard it's really intense, devastating at times, and just like an emotional roller coaster. And that coupled with how thick this is makes me a little bit nervous for trying to get to this before the end of the year. But like I said, I think it would be really nice just to wrap up this series and finally find out what happens at the end. So in October, I read a manga adaptation of Frankenstein, but I've never actually read the original, and I would really like to get to this. And I feel like it's such a small little book that it seems like it should be pretty easy to get to, so I feel like it's doable. And I have not read many, or if any at all, classics this year, which is kind of depressing. So I need to read one, and Frankenstein seems like the perfect pick. I mean, I feel like November is still kind of spooky season, so maybe I'll get to this at some point this month. And I am obsessed with this edition that I got from the used bookstore. I think it's so cool. It is super thin, which is slightly concerning because I've seen other people's copies that are fairly thick. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit confused as to what's going on here with this, but it says it's unabridged, so I don't know. I think it's the full thing, but I think it would be fun to finally get to this and be able to say that I've read it and just, you know, get the full context of the original story. I would love to get to No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. I have never read anything by this author, and to be honest, I feel like I don't really see people talking about him on BookTube. So I don't really know a ton about his works, but I do know that in the past when I've read book lists that are like the top most disturbing books, or like the most disturbing books I've ever read, I've seen books by this author on that list, on those lists. And that is kind of what led me to pick this up, and that I found it at a used bookstore. From what I understand, this is kind of about people who live in like a border town in Texas, and it sounds like it has something to do with drug smuggling potentially, and kind of like criminal underworlds. And I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest, that I might not be interested in those topics, or that I might have issues with like the things that are portrayed in this book. I don't really know what to expect. I guess that's the issue. but I am drawn in by the fact that it's disturbing because unfortunately I am morbidly curious and I need to know more. So I would love to just go ahead and jump into this and find out what it's all about, and then I'll be able to have read one of his books and know what's so disturbing about it. Then I have a couple picks that I have checked out on my Kindle because I need some Kindle reading to go in between all of these physical books. Me personally, I need to mix up the type of reading I'm doing. I get bored if I'm just only reading physical books. I love a Kindle moment as well. So I would love to read Vows and Ruins by Helen Scheuerer. And this is the sequel to Blood and Steel, and I've had this checked out for quite a while, so I would love to just get to it. And Blood and Steel is a fantasy romance that is based around our main character wanting to become a warrior, basically, or a soldier in a world where women cannot join soldiers, and basically how she navigates that and tries to get her way in there. And I did enjoy the first one, but I wasn't like a love, and it's in that place where I'm kind of like unsure of if I want to read the whole series or not, because I feel like the next book could make or break my opinion on it. And that's kind of the reason that I'm wanting to read the next one, is I just want to like get out of the way closer to when I've read the first one and not wait too long. That way I could just have an opinion of whether I want to continue and read the whole series, or if I'm just not that excited about it. So not a super exciting one, but I would love to just figure out what I want to do and if I want to continue that series. Then another one I've had checked out on Kindle Unlimited for super long is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. And I think that this is one of his newer releases. I'm not sure if it's his newest. I feel like he puts out quite a few books, so I'm kind of unsure at this point. But I feel like I don't have a lot of other horror on kind of my list for books I want to read before the end of the year. And so I would love to, round out the genres and get a little bit of horror in there. And I've had some mixed feelings on reading Stephen Graham Jones in the past. I tend to struggle with his writing style, and some of his books I've found quite challenging to follow the plot. However, I have also liked some of them, particularly I think it was his, it was a novella or short story by him. I can't remember the name now, but I did like that. And I know a lot of people love him, so I'm really wanting to give another chance and kind of decide once and for all if he's for me or not for me. And I've heard that this one is fairly character-based, which is usually something that I enjoy. So I'm interested to try it out and see what I think. And then for book number 10, we have Phantasma by Kaylie Smith. Now, this has been super duper popular online. This is fantasy romance. I believe there's a trial aspect to it. I don't know too much beyond that. Don't know if there's like what exactly the fantasy aspect of it is, if there's magic, what it's about, I don't know. I just know that it came out, I think, last fall, and a lot of people were reading it around spooky season last year, and there is now a second book out in the series, and I've been intrigued by it since it first came out. I think the cover is stunning. I've heard a lot of good things saying that it's super fun, that it's very spicy, and that it's an enjoyable read. So I feel like I might as well just get to it, and I think it'll be like a fun, quick read to have in this list of a lot of other like thick and impactful books. I feel like I need something just like fun and easy in there, and I think that Phantasma will be that for me. All right, those are the 10 books that I am going to try to read before the end of 2025. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I would love to hear down below what books you are trying to read before the end of the year, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.